The air hung heavy with the scent of hibiscus and red earth.
Ezinma, your smile is as bright as the kente cloth you wear.
Yet in the heart of their joy, a seed of concern began to sprout.
Akintola, your laughter echoes like the drums of our ancestors.
The elders, custodians of wisdom, understood the weight of genotype compatibility.
We must consider the potential suffering that could arise from a union deemed incompatible by our traditions.
The news struck Akintola and Ezinma like a bolt of lightning, splitting their world in two.
This cannot be the end of our story. I will move mountains for our love.
As days turned into nights, Akintola and Ezinma realized that their families would never truly understand the depth of their love.
And so, a daring plan began to take shape in our hearts, a plan fueled by desperation and an unshakable belief in our destiny.
Akintola and Ezinma built their new life with a mixture of trepidation and exhilaration.
I, a skilled carver, quickly found work, my hands transforming wood into objects of beauty that sold quickly in the bustling marketplace.
The early months of Ada's life were filled with a joy that eclipsed even the most vibrant sunrise.
The laughter that once filled our home is now replaced by hushed whispers of worry and the sounds of Ada's labored breathing.
The weight of the truth pressed down on Akintola and Ezinma, a suffocating blanket of guilt and fear.
She reminded me that we were in this together, our love the anchor in the storm that threatened to engulf us.
Days bled into weeks, each one an agonizing dance between hope and despair.
I would sing to Ada, my voice once filled with the joy of a carefree spirit, now imbued with a depth of emotion that resonated deep within her soul.
As Ada's first birthday approached, a fragile sense of normalcy returned to their lives. The constant fear that had haunted their days began to recede, replaced by a cautious optimism. They celebrated Ada's milestones, each tooth, each wobbly step, a testament to their daughter's strength and a reminder of the preciousness of life.
Life, it seemed, had a way of offering hope, even in the darkest of times. I discovered I was pregnant again.
The news, met with a mixture of joy and trepidation, brought a new wave of emotions. Akintola, his eyes shining with a love that had deepened through their shared hardship, embraced Ezinma, his heart swelling with the possibility of expanding their family.
But the fear, though muted, lingered like a shadow. The memory of our journey, the weight of our secret, was a constant reminder of the gamble we had taken. We knew that our unborn child carried the same risks as Ada.
The possibility of another child inheriting the sickle cell trait weighed heavily on their hearts. The joy of Ezinma's pregnancy was tinged with a quiet anxiety. They found themselves holding their breath at every doctor's appointment, their hearts pounding in their chests as they waited for the results of the prenatal tests.
We prayed for a miracle, a chance to defy the odds that seemed stacked against us.
The future, once again, was shrouded in uncertainty, a tapestry woven with threads of hope and fear. Ezinma's second child, a boy they named Emeka, arrived on a night alive with the rhythm of drumming and the scent of rain-soaked earth.
His cries, strong and full of life, filled the small room, momentarily chasing away the shadows.
Akintola, his face a mixture of relief and apprehension, held his son close, whispering prayers for his health.
Oh my son, may you be strong, may you be healthy, may you be free from suffering.
Yet, even as they celebrated Emeka's birth, a familiar dread crept into their hearts.
The joy of his arrival was interwoven with the unspoken fear of sickle cell disease.
The weeks that followed Emeka's birth were a blur of sleepless nights and anxious glances.
We watched our son, his skin as smooth as polished ebony, for any sign of the telltale symptoms.
The confirmation came sooner than they had hoped.
Emeka, like Ada before him, was diagnosed with sickle cell disease.
Their carefully constructed world, already fragile from the weight of Ada's illness, threatened to crumble around them.
The fear we had tried so desperately to outrun had finally caught up with us.
The shadow had returned, and with it, the fight for their children's lives continued. Their once harmonious home became a battleground of exhaustion and resentment. The constant demands of caring for two young children suffering from a debilitating illness took their toll.
Sleep became a luxury we could ill afford, replaced by the endless cycle of medication schedules, hospital visits, and the heart-wrenching sound of our children's cries.
Akintola, weary from his long hours at work, withdrew into himself, seeking solace in the silence of his thoughts. The pressure of providing for his family, of meeting their mounting medical expenses, became a heavy burden to bear.
I lashed out at Ezinma, my words sharp with frustration and a deep sense of helplessness.
My patience worn thin by the constant demands of motherhood and the emotional toll of watching our children suffer, I responded with a bitterness that surprised even me.
Their conversations, once filled with laughter and shared dreams, became strained, punctuated by silences that spoke volumes. The love that had once bound them together, the love that had defied tradition and carried them across miles, began to fray at the edges, weakened by the constant strain of their circumstances.
We found ourselves sleeping in separate beds, seeking solace in the cold comfort of distance, our dreams haunted by the fear of what the future held.
The weight of their secret, once a shared burden, now drove a wedge between them. Akintola, haunted by the knowledge that their current situation stemmed from his decision to defy his family's wishes, retreated further into himself, his silence a heavy shroud over their home.
My resentment growing with each passing day, I blamed Akintola for our misfortune, my words laced with a bitterness that poisoned the well of our love.
The laughter of their children, once a source of immeasurable joy, now served as a painful reminder of the life they had envisioned, the life that seemed to be slipping away with each passing day. They were trapped in a cycle of despair. Their love, once a beacon of hope, now flickering precariously in the face of overwhelming adversity. A shadow fell upon their village, a darkness that seeped into the marrow of their bones. A fever, swift and merciless, swept through Ada, leaving her small body ravaged and weak.
We watched in helpless agony as our daughter, our precious firstborn, slipped away from us. The herbs, the prayers, the desperate pleas to the ancestors, all proved futile against the relentless advance of her illness.
The night Ida died, the moon hid its face, ashamed to witness the depth of their despair. Akintola, his face etched with a grief that seemed to age him decades, held his daughter's lifeless body close, his tears falling silently onto her cold skin.
I rocked her gently, as I had done countless times before, whispering words of love and farewell into the stillness.
Ezinma, her wails echoing through the small house, seemed to shrink into herself, her body racked with sobs that refused to be comforted. The weight of their loss pressed down on them, suffocating, unbearable.
The laughter, the dreams, the hope we had dared to nurture, all turned to ashes in our mouths.
The villagers, their faces etched with sorrow and a quiet understanding, gathered to mourn with them. They brought food, offered words of comfort, and helped to prepare Ada's small body for burial. But their presence, their shared grief, could not fill the gaping hole that Ada's absence had left in their lives.
I stood by silently as my daughter's small coffin was lowered into the ground. The red earth, symbol of life and fertility, seemed to mock me with its indifference.
As the villagers covered Ada's grave with handfuls of earth, Akintola felt as though they were burying a part of himself, a part of his heart that would never beat again. In the aftermath of Ada's death, a heavy silence settled over their home. The laughter that had once filled their days was gone, replaced by a hollow echo of what once was.
Consumed by grief and guilt, I retreated further into myself, my silence a wall that Ezinma could not penetrate.
Ezinma, her heart shattered into 1,000 pieces, looked at her husband through eyes clouded with pain and resentment. She saw in his silence an accusation, a confirmation of her worst fears. Their shared grief, instead of drawing them closer, became a wedge, driving them further apart.
The bond that had once united us began to unravel thread by thread.
The weight of their circumstances, the loss of their daughter, proved too heavy a burden to bear.
One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I spoke the words that had been trembling on my lips for weeks. "It's over," I said, my voice hollow, devoid of emotion. "We can't do this anymore."
My eyes filled with a weary resignation, I simply nodded.
The love that had burned so brightly between them had been slowly extinguished by the cold ashes of grief and despair. Only the quiet acceptance of a love that had reached its breaking point.
We divided our meager possessions, our movements mechanical, our hearts heavy with unspoken words.
As dawn broke, painting the sky with hues of pink and orange, Akintola and Ezinma stood facing each other, their eyes mirroring the pain of a love story that had come to an end. With a final, lingering look, they turned and walked away from each other, their separate paths leading them back to the villages they had left behind, their hearts forever marked by the bittersweet memory of a love that had dared to defy fate. The whispers followed them, remnants of a love story that had dared to challenge fate. Akintola, his hair now streaked with gray, his shoulders stooped with the weight of his choices, returned to his craft, his skilled hands finding solace in the familiar feel of wood.
I poured my grief, my regret into each intricate carving, creating objects of haunting beauty that whispered of lost love and shattered dreams.
He never spoke of Ezinma, but her memory lingered in the air around him, a bittersweet fragrance that time could not erase.
I dedicated my life to caring for Amika, my love for my son a beacon of light in the darkness.
Ezinma, her eyes reflecting a wisdom born of pain and loss, carried the weight of their past, the memory of Ada, and the bittersweet echoes of a love that had burned brightly, but ultimately succumbed to the weight of their choices. She moved through her days with a quiet strength, drawing solace from the love of her son, her spirit a testament to the enduring power of a mother's love.
Our story, whispered from village to village, became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the enduring power of tradition and the heavy price of defiance.
But it also served as a testament to the enduring power of love. A love that had bloomed in the face of adversity. A love that, even in its absence, left an indelible mark on their souls. Each year, as the hibiscus bloomed and the rains returned, Akintola and Ezinma would find themselves drawn back to the ancient baobab tree, their silent pilgrimage, a testament to the enduring power of memory.
Standing on opposite sides of the tree, our hands tracing the grooves etched by time and weather, we would remember the intensity of our love, the depth of our commitment, and the bittersweet realization that sometimes, even the strongest love is not enough to conquer the hand of fate.